So language generation, like text as well as audio. These are some of the examples of generative AI. Images you talked about with like Dolly 2. What other application areas are there?
Yeah, we cover the lots in the book. So there's, for example, music is a field that I find particularly fascinating. I'm a musician myself. I can see you got your guitar there in the background on the YouTube video. Um, I I'm really surprised actually that music generation hasn't really taken off in the same way that language generation has, because in many ways you think it's perhaps a little bit easier because there's so many genres of music, and like we've got to arrange these audio waves in such a way that's pleasant to the ear, whereas words have a grammatical structure and there's very strict rules about what we want to see. But I sort of think to myself, why is that? And I wonder if it's in part because of the lack of data that's available. There's obviously a ton of text data available on the web, not as easy perhaps to find music data in such quantity. Perhaps it's also driven in part by necessity, and large language models are also extremely useful. We cover it in the book though. So music generation.
Sir, I'll just quickly interrupt you on the music thing. I think that you're absolutely right. I don't think it's the paucity of data, although there is obviously a lot of language data out there. There is a lot of music data as well. I think that you hit on it right at the end there, which is that very few people are employed in creating music,
Mm-hmm.
but almost all white collar workers, our our lingua franca, like the medium that we intake as well as output is in text.
Yep.
And this became even more obvious through the pandemic when you saw so many jobs could be done remotely, where it's just like emails and Slack messages. And so it's text in, text out for a lot of what we do. So I think that's why it's something that's talked about more. But it is interesting. There has been an explosion in generative music. So Spotify apparently has 1,000 tracks, 100,000 tracks uploaded to it every day. 100,000 tracks a day, and almost all of that is AI generated music. And the reason why that happens because you think, well, what's the point? Why are people wasting server time uploading that? Is that then they also have bots that listen to those fake tracks, which brings in royalties for these people doing it. But Spotify is starting to crack down on that. Anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think it's interesting to see where this goes, because I know, for example, I'm acquaintances, I guess, with the VP of audio at Stability AI, and he is first and foremost a composer. So he's not someone coming at this from kind of machine learning perspective. Firstly, he's someone who's coming at this as a composer. So he cares deeply about the rights and the authenticity of the music that's being generated, but seeing the potential for a different kind of music that we're listening to in future. So yeah, it's been exciting to see how platforms like Spotify jump on the bandwagon here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So I interrupted you a while ago. You were going to transition away from music to another application area for generative AI.
Yeah, sure. So we cover music in the book, but also other modalities, especially cross modalities. So we're talking about things like text to image, and also interestingly, kind of things like text to code, which I guess is another kind of language model, but a very specific kind of language model. But also in the final chapters, how reinforcement learning plays a part when we're talking about things like world models, where there's a generative model at the heart of the agent, which is trying to just simply understand how its environment evolves over time. And then layered onto that is the ability for the agent to use this generative model to understand what its future might look like, and therefore hallucinate different trajectories through its action space. So yeah, we might come onto this in a bit more detail later.
Oh yeah,
but safe to say, yeah, we got it all covered in the book.